Hey guys, this is Rose. Welcome back to OGKpop Commentaries, Part 2 of Episode 1, an intro to us. Trying to say was Sha Junsu of TVXQ was kind of one of the first members in groups that really stepped out of their immediate team to collab with other people. I mean, I'm sure there were others before him, but it wasn't as popular or as well known as a route as it is now. Like now it's kind of a given. At some point, the members are going to go solo. And at some point, and not solo forever, but at least solo, have their own little thing first at some point. And also do like certain collabs. Like collabs are so common nowadays. It's even like international collabs, not just South Korea anymore.
Right.
So Junsu was like the first one, and him doing this one with Jang Lian at the time was just so different, as I would come later to realize. But regardless, after I was like fell in love with TXQ and then knew all the members by heart and all of their alias names like Sha Junsu, Choi Kang Changmin, you know, like Mickey Yu-chan. After that, which I thought was this, as an OG fan, like I honestly thought it was so stupid. I was like, why? Like now, and I mean, like honestly, groups now don't really do it in that way. Like the names that they have now, like Rapmon is obviously not his name. That is an alias. And before the introductions were like not a joke. They were legit. Like Super Junior had Super Junior, like Ayo or something. Like they would always have a very specific intro. And speaking of Super Junior, they were originally 13 members. I don't know if everyone knows that, but they were. And like EXO, they had so many member changes throughout the years, but that makes sense because they debuted in 2005. Like, it's unavoidable, and it's rare to not have group changes at some point.
Right.
So basically, there was 13 of them, and after that, I gave up. I didn't even try to look into Super Junior because I was just like, I'm not memorizing 13 people. I barely remember the 5 of TVXQ.
Right.
There's no... I mean, when you first saw Super Junior, did you think that way too? Or were you just like, I got this. I'm going to study this?
So when I first learned about Super Junior, it was during their, like when they were doing like SM ballads, and it was like Monster and Sorry Sorry.
Yeah, that's like way...
Pretty much
forward.
like way forward. Like other groups were like on my mind. So to this day, sorry to all the elves, I don't know every single member's name.
Could you?
I just know some, like, you know, Siwon and Hichul and Ituk and, you know, like...
The main people now.
Kyunghyun.
Yeah.
But not, like, more of, like, the main people, like Donghae and Eunhyuk. Yeah, Sung. So it's a lot harder for me to say, like, wow, like, it was so hard to memorize, like, X amount of members because I wasn't into them at the time. I just knew them for some of their songs. So I didn't really try to, like, memorize names because they weren't my group of focus.
Yeah, that's true. Because honestly, Super Junior, we only really got to talk about it, when Sorry Sorry came out, and that's when they were at their peak. And I had already been following Super Junior. And honestly, I didn't even really like Super Junior until the song that I'm about to, like, pull up for a second. It's called Don. I never know how to say it, but DONT. And it was during their, like, early debut phase. And then they had like a little rock. They had like a little rock phase too that incorporated in the song. But it was the most random song for me to like from them because it was such a one-off song at the time. Like everyone else was doing pop, and they were doing this random like remix experimental like we're just gonna throw in rock and pop, and it started to sound like more experimental, not just the generic stuff. And Super Junior has like grown with their team and with their fans and whatever, but their style always, in general, they were started out as an experimental group. Like elves will know this, they can correct me because I only know like their general information from when I started with them. They were they were a project group. That's what it's called, project group. Basically, they were not supposed to last more than a couple years. And there was 13 of them because they were supposed to cut them down. But then eventually they did so well, and the fans responded to them so well that they had to fight tooth and nail to even keep their group together and to keep their name and everything. After like a couple years, they were gonna be like, this is our last concert, we're just, we're separating now. And the fans were so heartbroken that they were like protesting. They're like, you cannot disband this group. And so eventually they like earned the right to stay as a group. And I think Super Junior, any group now that has more than 5 people needs to thank Super Junior, because they were the first group to be more than 5 or 6 people, 5 or 6, 7 people. Because the numbers back then was like 5 people. You're either a duo or you're a group, and a group was like 5, 6, 7. Mm-hmm. There was no
like more than 9.
Yeah. No, even 9, like 7 was I think the max.
Right.
And even when SNSD came out, Sonyashide, Girls' Generation, as you all know it now, there's 9 girls, and that was unheard of for girl groups, especially girl groups, like 4 people.
Right.
So Super Junior is like the experimental group that wasn't supposed to be a group that became a group, and then that became a model for all your groups now. But NCT, like, I know nothing about NCT, but at the same time, their formula for to have so many people in a group only came out because of Super Junior. They were actually supposed to be, Super Junior was the start of subunits, basically. Because they had, like, Rokugo, like that subunit, I really don't remember the specific subunit. But they had to split because there were just so many of them. Mm-hmm. So they started splitting them up, and then that became a thing because everyone saw that SM was, like, getting traction from that.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, we can cut up our groups too. Mm-hmm. And so Super Junior, they're not my favorite, but I have to give them respect because they really set the wheel going to really have people be more open to having like subunits and like a larger group, more than 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And once SM like honed in on that, and then they debuted SNSD in 2000, late 2009, right?
Around that time, yeah.
Probably earlier. But regardless, they got so much hate because it was like 9 girls, and they were so close to TVXQ and Super Junior and all of that stuff. Anyways, regardless, we will talk about Black Ocean later, which you don't even know about.
I don't know what Black Ocean is.
Oh my gosh, we have to talk about that but anyone who's the OG also knows about Black Ocean at the time. That is, SNSD got so much hate. I mean, if you guys looked at their past compared to now, you guys would be like, oh my god, that happened to SNSD. They were never always this popular. Like, it would throw you so much. I was actually more surprised that they got so popular with G, but anyways, so then I became like an SM fanatic, right? I was just like, okay, this whole company is basically balling when it comes to groups. I'm just gonna. After a while, you just start to figure out, oh wait, there's other companies, right? Mm-hmm. And then, so the only reason that you even really started to look into it is because I introduced her to Wonder Girls.
Wonder Girls! Nobody but you! And then it was also around that time that Wonder Girls was starting to promote in America.
Yeah. Well, they had, before promoting America, they had a string of hits. So, I mean, this is for people who overlap. So we're more familiar with second generation. So that's what we're going to... Right. We'll put that down there. Second generation, we are way more familiar with third and fourth and everyone else now.
And a little bit of first gen for me.
Yeah.
Kind of we'll go into how that came about.
Yeah. But before they came to the States, they had Nobody. They had Tell Me. They had so many songs that were just like that made them honestly the girl group of the year. Girl group in general. They were more popular than SNSD at the time. In fact, if they hadn't left, which we're gonna have to do another episode about this, and went to promote in the States, in stateside, then they actually probably would have continued to overtake SNSD. They kind of left a little bit of a hole, but Wonder Girls was definitely kind of an acquired taste because they had a very specific formula too. Mm-hmm. So I can understand why. Yeah, I can understand why you weren't feeling it when I first showed it to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, so at the time, I was really more of a movie buff. Like, I
Yeah.
loved watching movies from anywhere, and at the time, you know, I believe it was on Facebook, you know, like, my friend had posted, like, a clip of a movie, and I believe the movie that was like 100 Days with Mr. Arrogant.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this looks interesting, so let me go watch it. And that ended up going into watching Project Makeover. And this movie had introduced me to one of the OG of K-pop.
True first generation.
True first generation Deuce.
Yeah.
Entire film, it was, you know, this girl going back into time, and how this song really was like her true essence and why she loved it so much. So,
and it was like, it was just a part of the soundtrack. It was part of the background of the movie.
It was pretty much like it had a heavy focus in the movie.
Honestly, I'll be honest, I didn't watch Project Makeover. But I only heard about it because at the time I was exclusively K-pop music. So, you know, K-pop is a general term for just Korean pop culture.
Yeah.
So our channel isn't just exclusively about music, although that's where it started, especially for me. But I'm going to be the kind of connoisseur when it comes to K-dramas and K-movies, because she got me into, so it was just a lot of back and forth, and I'm sure a lot of K-pop fans nowadays experience this with their friends and their K-pop friends online and in person. You just learn off of each other, right? So like I introduced you to K-music at the time, but she introduced me to K-movies. But and Deuce, honestly.
Yeah.
And what song is this?
It's Turn Around by Deuce.
Turn Around by Deuce.
Yeah. Turn Around and Look at Me. So this song in the entire movie basically it was like a forefront of it. It made the movie, I would have to say. So I loved this movie just because of this song. And so when I heard it, I was like, I have to look for it. I have to go delve deeper into it, and from there it led me to like G.O.D.
Oh, G.O.D. Oh my
Group
God.
of Overdose.
JYP.
And then from there it led me to Big Bang, 21, and 2 PM.
It just opened
Kjpargete era.
Yeah, it just opened the world of like that. It kind of led you to string along to the groups and the genre of types that you liked that were different from mine.
Right.
But it was still very K-pop like.
Of course. I mean,
True.
it went from what, you know, I think promoted more of the newer era, you know, like H.O.T, Deuce, G.O.D,
Turbo.
Turbo.
Does anyone know that Kim Jong-kook is actually originally a singer? Kim Jong-kook, that manly, the big ass dude,
has like one of
Running
the
Man.
most high pitched
like
singing voices.
angelic voices. And he sings ballads. Yeah, that muscly man sings ballads originally.
So yeah, for me, yeah, like it took me back to those groups like Cess and Finkel, and
it was Finkel and SES at the time was like
were big. They were kind of like rivals, I would have to say.
Yeah. No, back then rivals. You guys think rivals are bad now? Back then rivals were insane. Like second generation was already insane. First generation was ridiculous. Like HOT against Sechkis. Oh my god, if I butchered that, I'm so sorry. Sechkis,
yeah.
And then they were always fighting. Like their fandoms were always fighting against each other over colors and everything. And then SES and Finkel, like you were saying, they were rivals because they were both from so it's SM versus
was it Pledis?
No, it's not Pledis. It's definitely DSP. Kara's original Kara. Sorry, Kara. Kara. Kara's original
company,
entertainment company, DSP. They were actually huge. They were like competing with SM at the time. Like YG and JYP were barely a thing.
Yeah.
So if anyone,
well, I mean, because at that era there was Taiji Boys, which hey, if you know, Big Man YG. Big Man YG was a part of Taiji and Boys. at that time, I think Korean films and dramas were a heavy influence into me really, really liking Korean music.
Yeah.
And
your medium was totally different from mine.
Right. So for me, it was this movie, and you know how a lot of people talk about how K-pop, what makes K-pop a lot is the dance and the music videos, and how it's a whole package. And for me, it was visually seeing the dance, the dudes turn around, look at me dance, and the energy that went with it, and my love for 90s style, like,
music,
swing jack type of music. And
you know, Mellie and me really have that commonality. I think the reason we enjoy it so much is because at the time, and it's still true to this day, K-pop is basically 90s, early 2000s, like pop and R&B, right?
Yeah.
So we both love pop, but I am in love with 90s, 2000s R&B because we grew up with it.
Yeah.
So like so K-pop I think was kind of like it was my escape. I'm sure it was yours too. And I think once we found like what we liked about it, that's when we really went in.
Oh yes, like, for me it was listening to like podcast.
Yeah.
And
like one of these.
Yeah, like one of these. And it was, I don't recall what the podcast was that I listened to, but it was two young girls who were in college, and they had this passion for K-pop and learning Korean, and their passion kind of, you know, helped me build more of a passion as well. And yeah, it was honestly, I think, a whirlwind of an addiction.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, come on, all international like K-pop OGs, you at one point were a Korea boo.
Okay, that is a pretty blanket statement though.
Let's admit it that, you know, like
Korea boo is different. Like what's your definition of Korea boo?
Okay, so like a Korea boo is like someone who really tries.
You triggered so many people.
So if I'm not mistaken, like initially, I'm not saying like you were trying to pretend to be something else, but you were fascinated by like the language. You wanted to learn it, so you started using like phrases here and there. You started, you know, wanting to learn more about Korea, and you wanted to know about like your like the actors and whatnot. So I'm saying like
you become fast. It becomes an addiction. Like an obsession. Right. That's like a better.
Right, but I'm not saying like
you wanted to be Korean.
You wanted to be Korean.
That's the definition.
Oh, okay. So I'm saying you were kind of.
You were so obsessed.
You were so obsessed that you kind of were like a Korea boo. Not necessarily were, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you become so absorbed and so fascinated
that people
with
mistook you for wanting to be Korean.
Right. So, but really what it was that you found, like, a passion and a love for the language, for the culture, for the music, for what it had to offer you. And in a way, like, take you away from, like, whatever was going on around you. Yeah. And it made you really, really, you know, find an interest. And for me at that time, I was in college, and it was awesome, like, to find something that could really take my mind off of finals and and really, like, make me focus on other things outside of, you know, the day-to-day social life. Like, I'm an introvert, so I need those moments of like personal escape. Yeah.
Well, so and it just goes to show, because Mellie and me are different, right? So very much like, I'm all about being practical. I always have a schedule. I'm not very much when it comes to, I don't mind going outside, but it has to mean something. So for me, in my case, it was like I needed an escape from the everyday, boring, practical work that I was doing. Because at the time, we were in high school, but we were getting ready for college. Right. So I was like so stressed out and so bogged down by like, oh crap, I gotta do SATs, and I gotta get in some college, and then I had to, I was just so stressed out, and honestly, American music wasn't doing it for me at the time. Like, kind of like it is now still. Like, I mean, it was a little bit better back then, but at the same time, I was really I was so bored. I barely listened to the radio, and the internet was really setting a foundation. It was a platform, and it was becoming integrated in people's lives. Like, back then, internet was to do your homework. like you sure would watch a couple YouTube videos here and then, but there wasn't that like breadth, this depth of like you go on YouTube, you can find anything, everything.
Yeah, I would say like the 2008, 2009 era, YouTube was
starting out.
It was starting out. I mean, I think it'd been there for a little bit longer, but it was really the era where people really used it as a way platform to show, like K-pop videos and Korean movies. Like you to this day, I think you can watch like full length, like 100 Days with Mr. Arrogant, 200 Pound Beauty, full length with like subtitles, fan subs,
HD.
I hate you all. Now. But like back then, it was a way to share things that you really couldn't share before.
Yeah, and YouTube allowed it for especially international movies, not just Korean, but I mean, in my case, Filipino. In your case,
like it was Korean and Indian and just like French films and just anything that was not necessary, and like Latin films. It was a way to watch like things that like you really couldn't have access to before. Yeah. So thank you, YouTube, for that era of introducing me to a lot of things that at one point I probably wouldn't have really paid too much mind to.
Yeah, and at the time it's started, so now you can look up the romanization of everything. If you don't know the song, as long as you know the title and the artist, you can just look up romanized lyrics and you got it. Back then it wasn't, no one romanized it. I mean, there were a few people that did, a handful of people that did. They were either Korean like saints, Korean American saints who were just had pity on the people that just did not understand the language, and they just did it offhand. So the romanization wasn't very like intuitive. It was very like their personal romanized kind of thing. So, but you can make it out. But now there's like a standard expectation that it wasn't very personal. So it was just like whatever anyone had time for, and even subs, like you'd have to wait so long.
Oh gosh.
MVs were not sub back then.
Oh gosh. So what was it before Vicky? All of the Asian things that you wanted to see were on here.
Yeah.
And like you could watch an anime at one moment and then you'd watch like an Chinese or
But it was all in beta form. Like the websites were very basic, right? And you're lucky if you found one that wasn't raw and that had any subtitles, even if they were like partial. And at the same time, like now,
ages, yeah.
Like now you can even watch Mnet on cable, right? If you hook it up with Verizon or whatever internet provider you've got, then you can just, even if you don't, I mean, does anyone really watch cable? Have the cable anymore? I think everyone just has their smart TV hooked up to the internet. So we're really showing our age, but I mean, whatever. So
I mean, so the thing is that like
there was no Mnet or anything that you can go to if you can't watch it on the internet, then you can watch it on your TV. You can air it.
I mean, thank goodness that Vicky like upped their game after a while, because for a while it was only they would pick and choose certain
dramas. License is really hard to get, so they couldn't get a lot.
Right. So they had to pick, and of course they were fan subs. So at the time you had to wait like
ages.
Or I'd watch them as they were subbing them. It was a little tough because you wanted to watch it, but you understood that this is not my primary language. I'm not about to complain that these aren't, completed.
These other fans who do speak Korean don't have all the time in the world to just finish it in one go. Like, they had to come back, and it wasn't everyone. So, okay, this episode isn't meant for us to be, like, complaining about the times back then. But it was just part of our story, right?
Yeah,
and we're not trying to, like, diss the time.
Of course not. Like, I thank that era for making me
appreciate Kpop
appreciate
more.
It, be patient.
Yeah.
And also, like, it just made me, like, okay, I can't watch this drama right now, but I can definitely, like, go check out, like, this group or this song, or just learn more about what I'm really interested at the moment. So exactly. I bless, like, the era.
Okay, our generation, I'm not naming the exact generation because I don't want you guys to completely date us, but but you obviously know because we're talking about first.
I think you can figure it out by now.
But I don't need to give you exact time, so I'm not gonna. So it's like first generation, second generation, everything that we're talking about. And 2008 obviously was the peak of our time, but that was just the beginning, right? Now we're still very much in our own ways connected to it. I think we always will be, whether we're completely into it or not. But I think the reason we really wanted to get this up and running was just because like, I'm lucky that I have Mellie and she has me to kind of bounce off, like, oh, you remember this? Oh, man, what about this time? But, you know, we're older now. We each have our own lives. Sometimes we don't see each other because of work or personal or everything.
Right.
And it's just like, we want to share this because we want other people who don't have that luxury to have someone that they can just be. Although now it doesn't matter if you have someone near you. You can just go online and be like, hey, who loves Team XQ? Who loves EXO? Who knows about this? But even then, there's like a difference, right? It's you know, you can like leave it on the post and you guys can talk and that's fun. But it's also nice to hear about other people's like experiences too, right? It's always fun to hear about how people get into K-pop. But nowadays, I feel like it's harder to hear about the people of our time, because everyone nowadays like knows K-pop through BTS. They know through it's definitely, but I feel like it's hard for us because we're so much older now. And I mean, like, you know, generational stuff, I'm sure everyone has felt like this at some point, but I'm sure there's like a larger group than I think there is.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just trying to reach out to not just that niche, but hey, who knows? If you're a new K-pop fan and you enjoy listening to us rant about when we were young,
these old grandmas,
these ajumas, but instead of ajumas, can you just call me Uni, please? Like, older sister, like, I really don't want to be called ajuma just yet. Oh my god. Like, there'll be plenty of time for that.
I think it's great to have this way of reminiscing and, you know, having us, you know, talking about it, but also allowing other people to sort of have their input and
share,
you know,
their experiences.
Share your experience, share how you got into K-pop and what made you sort of fall in love with it. And you know, like, every experience is unique. For me, my friend tried to introduce, but that didn't work out. It was more of me watching on my own. And, you know, it also opened the door for me to look at other things like Mando Pop and J-pop and just also indie music outside of, you know, what I was used to. You know, like, I was, for the longest time, I was really just into Latin pop and like American pop, and you know, just it brought in my mind that, oh my god, there's music outside of my scope, like, and that language at times doesn't necessarily matter, because it makes you want to learn it. And I think that's the important thing, is that sometimes music or film, it can make you want to learn a new language and open your mind.
It also goes to show that when it comes to music especially, but even films and dramas and things like that, but music can be universal. Yeah. And you don't need to know that language. You don't need to know what the heck they're saying, but you can feel like, man, I love this music. I don't know what they're saying, but I know it. And I think once you have that moment where it clicks for you that, like, man, I can get into this, and I really need to know more about this. That feeling, that's the feeling we're talking about. So it doesn't have to be K-pop for you. If you're listening to this and you're just like, oh god, here's another K-pop, like, podcast, video, comment, whatever, right? It's more about that feeling, that first initial, like, damn, like, what is this? How come I've never heard of this before? And I need to find out more. And that could be anything. Love of languages. Like, some people fell in love with K-pop because of the language. They just want to know Korean. And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, wait, like, the culture is awesome too, on top of everything else. And the music, like, why aren't I listening to this? Yeah. And then for me, it was totally about the music, but other people's about food. And then they just happened to be hearing the K-pop music in the background while they're eating, like, and they're just like, and I'm like singing to myself, and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, this is the song, I love the song.
I know this feeling. I went to a boba place, and there was a Korean song or whatever playing, and I just started,
Which song?
I believe it was a BTS song,
of course,
at the time, but I was just singing along to it, and my cousin just looks at me and she's like, I can't believe you know what they're saying, or you can sing along to this. I was like, you don't know what this is? Yeah. It's this song. It's a BTS song.
It's just about capturing that. And I mean, that's what YouTube was all about in the beginning. Yeah. Even YouTube, it was like, everyone gets that, like, nostalgic, like, lens. Everyone calls it, like, the beer goggle lens. So everyone's like, man, it was so much better back in the day. But it wasn't necessarily better. Now it's more about, like, you know, it's all about marketing, and it's all about the trends. But it's like right now K-pop is a trend in the States.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, I'm a little salty about that still. I'm a little jealous about new K-pop fans or current K-pop fans now. I think
it's you're like, you know, how easy they kind of got to access to it.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, I'm actually very glad for it in a way, because it's the experiment that they can experiment with different artists. Like, you know, not too long ago, Super Junior, they did 2 collaborations with 2 Latin artists, Love Is a Grace and Drake, and At Monster did the collaboration with Wale and Steve Aoki, and you mentioned Blackpink also with Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa. K-pop will always have a special place in my heart, but I'll be honest, I'm not as with I'm not keeping up with it like before, because, you know, things change and all of my groups that I love have disbanded, and
it's tough.
I'm so salty about that, and you guys will know, or wish it upon anyone, but it's gonna happen. Like the 7-year K-pop group curse.
Oh, no.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that we'll have to sort of, we can talk about the groups that had that happen, and, you know, like why we're like, you know, a little bit
salty as hell,
or disappointed that they're not together.
I'm pissed.
But what made them great during those
Their
7
prime.
years?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, this has been great. Like, I love talking about this with you. It always makes me happy, and knowing that we can always just, you know, go onto our phones now and just, oh my gosh, do you remember this song, or do you know this song? And being able just to dance to it, and even like in our rumbling, mumbling singing.
I mean, it's you know, K-pop has become kind of like somewhat of a nostalgic safe haven, in the sense that, like, we can always, I mean, for me, so my depression's really bad right now, so I have the hardest time getting through the day, because I'm always trying to just manage to make it to the end of the day, and it's not something I would wish upon anyone, but a lot of people do have it, and this is something that they do struggle with on an everyday basis, and sometimes I just need a break. I need something to get my mind off of it and think of something more than just, how am I going to get through my day? How am I going to manage this? What can I do? What more can I do? And you're just constantly thinking about self-management and self-care. And sometimes it's still not enough. Sometimes you still really just have to go through the lows. And it's so subjective. It's a very individual experience. You know, the way I experience my depression is completely different from someone who experiences theirs. So I'm not remotely trying to say that K-pop is the remedy to everyone's struggle, but I mean, it can help. I definitely helped with me, and now when I talk about it with Mellie, I mean, I can always know that I can talk with Mellie about all of the things that we had before, because when my depression gets really bad, I know that, like, it's kind of like a safe haven topic. Like, I may not, because right now I feel really detached from things, and so now when I know that K-pop is kind of like something that I remember at a point I was actually happy with, you know, and now it's like so hard for me to really think about what makes me happy, because nowadays nothing really makes me happy. So, but I do remember enjoying K-pop so much, and then when I start to bring something up, or when Mellie brings something up to me about the nostalgic old times, then it kind of like sparks a little bit of flame in me again, right? Like I want to talk about it, because it reminds me of the time when I'm just like, everything wasn't as complicated. Everything wasn't as like difficult. I didn't feel like I could barely get through the day. And now it's just like, I mean, I may not have the same safe haven K-pop that I did before. I have no idea who any of the new groups are. like
yeah, we have sometimes issues in regards to connecting with some of the newer groups, because I'll be very excited saying, like, have you heard this song? Have you heard this group? And even if it's not like, you know, mainstream K-pop, we'll sometimes talk about like, the indie groups like Urban Zakapa or Sam Kim or Kwanjina. And so sometimes we have a little disconnect in talking about like those groups.
Even with us, like, together.
Because, you know, I'm still very much in love with, you know, K-pop, K-R&B, and K&D music. So it can be difficult to really talk about that when someone isn't as interested, but still kind of find a way like to sort of reintroduce and connect again. Yeah. Like, you know, like,
it's not that I'm not interested, it's more of the fact that I can't really understand because I don't know like I did before. Like before you would mention something, I'd be like, did you know? And then you're like, oh really, but did you know? So it was more just
it was more of the back and forth.
Yeah, we tried like out knowing each other, but that's not even a thing.
Yeah. No, like I totally get it. Like you kind of like want to upstage
with your knowledge
of a group or a show or a fun fact
that
or
the other person doesn't know about.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned, it's probably not disinterest, but more of it's a different focus of, you know, what to prioritize. And for me, it's still kind of been like number 2 in life for me. And so
I mean, everyone can phases in and out very differently. And I'm not saying that K-pop is a phase, because if it was a phase, I would have been over it in college.
Yeah.
But
you know how like some people say like, oh yeah, like I like it was a phase for me. Like I only know groups like Big Bang or Super Junior.
Yeah.
Or even, hey, if you're way older than that, like One Time and
Lexi. Anyone remember Lexi from YG? No one knows, but I know.
If you know who Lexi is, write up, you know, because I had no idea who Lexi was.
Back me up, okay? The original.
So this is
queen
where
of
she
YG.
is one-upping me right now, because I have no idea who Lexi was or who Jang Jian was, or who is the other one? Blue Ocean.
Black Ocean.
Black Ocean.
She remade that. To each their own, in the sense that, like, it depends how much you're willing to really invest in it. At the time, back then, I had all the time in the world. I was a high school student.
Yeah.
Like, I had all the time to devote to, like, research everything about everyone. And as you get older, I mean, it's not an excuse. You can totally make time for everything that you love.
Yeah.
It's a different type of passion. When you're young, when you're like 16, 17.
You're wanting to search.
Everything is your world, right? The moment you absorb into something, that's what, like, you know, people make fun of millennials or Gen Y or just the younger generations, because they're just everything is like so serious to them. Like everything is about to make or break, you know, a celebrity's relationship will make or break their lives. I mean, it's not.
I think that's for every generation. Their teenage phase.
Yeah, like, but that's what's so great about, like, the youth, like the passion that burns within them.
Yeah.
It could, like, ignite the world, but it depends on, I mean, and it depends on what their interests are. And now it's just like, I think this is a good way to also kind of connect that bridge too between us and the younger, because I mean we were you guys before at one point. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm saying these phrases.
You know, I can totally see what you mean.
Like this can also totally bridge the gap between our generation,
like
and the
we
newer
can
ones.
teach you a little bit about like the groups that we loved and the songs that we loved, like, you know, like not their A tracks, but maybe their B tracks. And
A tracks. No, anyone know what A tracks are now?
Yeah. But yeah, like, you know, for our love for some of the groups that we really, really, I would say respect and love their songs and their story and their struggles. And I think for me, one of the things I really loved about K-pop was a lot of the stories that they would tell with their songs.
Oh my god, the music videos were on another level.
Yeah, like Haru Haru and Lies.
Yeah.
And like G.O.D's song for their mom.
Yeah, Mother.
And just, it was an era where, you know, a lot of times it wasn't about, the songs also had a little bit to do about, like, just being young, being a kid, being, having these struggles. And I think that's with any music, with, you know, like hip-hop, when it first came, like, you know, rap music scene, it was a story that it was telling.
Yeah.
Like Latin music and its ballads, a love story that was kind of telling. And then gosh, now I'm gonna sound like an old lady saying like, oh, nowadays, like
Nowadays.
music has no meaning. But no, I think music
It still does.
has. It's just
different,
and how we connect is very different.
And Mellie was saying how for her the cinema
definitely,
of the
Alexis.
MVs, for me it wasn't about the MVs per se, although I definitely enjoyed them. And I think American music now MV, and even back then, but it was, I mean, Michael Jackson did this with Thriller, like
Janet Jackson
and Janet Jackson, they made their MVs productions, right? So I'm not saying that like K-pop has the exclusive hold on it, but in terms of like in the more recent times,
I think in that time frame, a lot of the music videos that we were watching, like, in the American scene,
yeah,
the stateside, was losing that
production value.
that storytelling. It was focusing so much on just like the aesthetic, not so much in
of looking cool.
Yeah, not so much in the story that it had to tell, or even like the dance. Like there was not much dance going on in a lot of the videos. So,
or at least nothing intricate enough for you to be like, damn, they're in sync.
Yeah, so it was just different. Like, and I think that's what kind of, for me, it was the dance and the videos and just
everything,
all of it together
yeah.
That really grasped my attention. And still what catches my attention with the new groups, they still put 100% on what they do. And I think even, this has, in a way, I would say has helped, like, other music videos from other, countries step up their game into not just being a music video with
a good song.
With a good song, it has something
more
to show, more cinematic value. So, in a way, thanks K-pop, you kind of like your influence
raises the standards.
Raises the standards,
today's.
Right? Because
I mean, there's always going to be something that forces people to raise the standards. Like back then, I mean, I'm always going to reference Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson because come on, King of Pop with Thriller and Bad and everything. So it's just it's a matter of fact that it's just a cycle. Like now like BTS and just K-pop in general, like these bands are really making people like stop and stare and being like, oh, well, actually, I guess you can integrate it all. I guess it doesn't have to be one or the other, like only dancing or only singing or only.
Like you can do
everything
together. Like a stage can have this huge presence, like the way that the camera works.
Yeah.
I think
a little bit.
You're all going to agree with me maybe on this, that when you watch a music show program in Korea versus when you watch a music show program or when they're performing on stage here, the movement of the camera is so different. Like in Korean music shows, you can see that they're focusing on each member, on each dance step, and then you have like, what was it when NCT went on Jimmy Kimmel, or when BTS was on, I believe it was the American Music Awards.
AMAs, they were on Ellen, AMA.
Right, but I don't recall which one it was, but their performance, the way that they were filming it was so choppy, and you couldn't really see, like, you couldn't enjoy the performance. You could barely hear what they were saying.
Yeah.
At times, the mic wasn't that great. So this is where I'm just like, you need to step up your game, because you can do all of this, like...
You can do it all.
You can do it all. Like, you can do the stage production for some of these programs. But even then, now, some of them, like, aren't that great. Like, the Grammys...
Ooh.
I'm gonna say this. Sometimes the stage and, like, MTV, like, sometimes the stage songs and the way that they do things, it needs a little bit of work, because I've been watching too much Korean music shows and programs.
She's got that little bit, like when people are become connoisseurs of like coffee or whatever, we watch things, she gets irritated.
I'm just like you gotta step up your game. Like, these Korean music shows, like, they're showing the performance, they're showing like the dance and the movements, and come on, like, you can do better. Like, if I've seen better, you can do better. The
expectations are definitely different now. Yeah. And I think it's all a matter of, K-pop isn't the saving grace of the whole world.
No.
We're not saying that at all. At the same time, something will always trigger a reaction or a different change of pace. And K-pop nowadays in 2018 has completely revamped people's thoughts. American music has always been on top. Right. It's always been such a huge driving force. It's always in so many countries. It's kind of like a given.
I mean, it's still to this day influences everything. Like it influences Latin music, and it influences, you know, K-pop, like, and K-R&B and K-hip-hop. Like, American music still has
that hold.
Like, it will always influence other cultures, and it will, but...
What I'm saying is that it's not only Hollywood and American music, you know, now it's really fun to see the reverse, the flip side. It's happened before, but I mean Bollywood, and then there was, I'm not saying that K-pop is the first, and J-pop and anime and all that stuff. It's not the first time that culture has been exported, right? Right. Not at all. At the same time, I'm talking about in the sense of, like, in music, it hasn't really had a resurgence of anything. Like, Latin music definitely made reggaeton, reggaeton back then.
And even then, now, I think, with the trap and reggaeton and, like, even cumbia, like, just Latin music has sort of evolved again, put itself in the forefront. Hey, Despacito.
By the way.
But, you know, like, I think that happens with music or with anything. It'll go through a moment where it'll be very, like, stagnant, and it won't move forward, but then suddenly, like, something will, like, trigger it and influence it and make it, like, you know, be something that you want to listen to and you want to look out for.
And now it's with the advancement of social media and technology and everything, it's just gonna happen faster. Like, back in the day, it took a lot longer. So now we'll probably see this cycle be a lot more rapid, and I think that's why I was so thrown by BTS's sudden emergence and their dominance over the people's minds nowadays. I'm not saying everyone knows who BTS is, but if you know K-pop, most people will tell me, "Oh, I know BTS," and I'm like, I do too, but they are not my first one when I mention K-pop.
Oh wait, Bulletproof Boy Scouts. I said that wrong initially. Bulletproof Boy Scouts, but
I will always come at me. I will always laugh at the abbreviations.
Oh, the English one, what it originally was, that's why they've stuck with BTS. Bang Bang Sonyeonjide. Like, they're just like, their English is BTS. Yeah. Because,
but I'm saying, and K-pop fans of all generations know this. I love K-pop to my core. It always has a special place in my heart. But you are lying to me if you say that you can keep a straight face when you hear what BTS stands for. There are worse, if you can believe it. The ones that stand out to me is, but then when you hear abbreviations explained out, I thought I was so used to the fuckery that is K-pop sometimes, but then it always surprises me, and then I'm always just like, man, so this is why I can never fall out of love, because I'm always finding new things to just be like, did you know that, fun fact, TVXQ's original name that they were gonna have before Rising Gods of the East, you know, originally they were going to be named as their project group name. They were about to be named the 5 Visceras, meaning they were about to be named after the 5 internal organs of the body. Like, it's a Korean phrase where it's just like, you need these 5 organs to actually be a person, right? So they were just trying to elicit the thought that all of these 5 people fit perfectly together as a group, and they make the perfect, like, boy band. But instead, and then one of their other pre-debut names were going to be Whale That Eats Legends. Now, bear in mind, this is all in Korean, but that's what it's translated to. Whale That Eats Legends, meaning they were going to eviscerate all the legends that came before them. I'll be honest, SM has always been a little cocky. So I'm not surprised that they were trying to be named after, like, the 5... I am surprised they were trying to name them after 5 major intestines of the human body. I don't know who in PR who thought that would be a really good idea. Maybe it translates better in Korean. But even, like, the legends or the whale that will... Legends... It's just so, like... I mean, Rising Gods of the East is cocky as hell, too. But... but at the very least, it kind of makes more sense, right? But there are just times where I go back and think, Who is smoking crack over at SM Entertainment's PR department? Who's thinking of these names? Because do you know how hard that's going to be to translate to another language? Like, the same meaning cannot be explained in the same way in another language. And I mean, I know probably in the beginning they weren't thinking that that would really matter, but it does, and it still does. And I'm looking at all the entertainment companies that are debuting new people now, and if you think that international fans are about to memorize all these crazy acronyms that's in English, stop drinking the Kool-Aid, people. Okay, like entertainment companies, get your shit together. Because it's insane. But it's funny, though. So it's like, I can't get angry because it amuses me so much. But at the same time, I'm also just like, really? It's been years. You still are doing this? You're still pulling this off? And I mean, honestly, BTS has kind of claimed BTS. So every time I look something up for behind the scenes, it always comes up to BTS. So technically, whoever did that was actually a little smart. So maybe that's what they were trying to get at. Mm. Anyways, if you guys ever want to have a fun time, look up some of your favorite groups' acronyms. Is basically what the whole point of this whole discussion was.
Yeah.
It was just so that you can enjoy it and have more fun with your band and love them even more when you find out the shit that their entertainment company put them through to even debut. Oh, man. I mean, enjoy your group for what they are. I mean, you can make fun of them all you want, and a lot of people will make fun of you for liking them. But, I mean, that's what they're there for. Not to be made fun of, but to enjoy. Yeah. To enjoy their music, the group as a whole. I mean, you'll always have your bias in a group. That's never going to change. But, I mean, make sure to, enjoy the whole group. Because, the dynamics of that group is what really kind of another selling point of K-pop. Yeah. Like, I mean, American bands, I'm amazed that they last as long as they do. Because, I know that K-pop boy bands and girl groups are modeled after that kind of, like, 90s NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Destiny's Child. Like, all of the original kind of groups, girl and boy bands. But at the same time, that's the one thing that K-pop does right, is that, I mean, there are still cases where there's one individual that gets super highlighted and everyone seems like a backup dancer, a backup vocal. But, and in American groups, it was worse. Like, K-pop group bands get really pissed because there's a lot of uneven exposure, a lot of uneven, distribution of singing or dancing or FaceTime. And that's true. Like, that still happens today. But that is the one thing that they have improved on. Because, does anyone remember NSYNC? Huh.
Hello.
Or let's say JC and JT and group. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Pussycat Dolls, Nicole, and group. I'm not trying to like badmouth the group or even the individuals that are popular. It kind of comes with the territory. Right. And I think K-pop does a really good job of balancing out as best they can. And so enjoy that aspect of it too. Yeah. Like, I think you guys need to bear in mind that as a group, that the dynamics of them is actually what pulls you in even more. Yeah. Not just the music, not just how they look, not just the choreography, and it's everything. That chemistry, that's what they sell too. It's that family or that friendship ties. Like, you probably, I mean, depending on the type of person you are or how old of a K-pop fan you are, some of you probably think that these people are true friends. For some groups, maybe that may be true. But for the most part, and I think they're a lot better about it now, they're more open about the fact that it is a business relationship, and they're all professionals, and they all do great at having that like harmony and that good image. But a lot of it is manufactured, and a lot of it is also true. Like, it's just it's a mix.
And for that, I would say the best group to represent that it was, a family till at the end, like, you start off as business, but you do make a family, is SHINee. SHINee!
I know some of y'all are crying
Replay.
right now. Some of y'all are crying.
Yes, but
Goddamn those bowls. Rest in peace, Donghyun. And yeah, that's exactly. Thank you for bringing that up because I mean I'm not saying that everyone is manufactured. And some of these groups do really come out as families at the end of it. I mean, these people see each other every freaking day of their lives. Work, home, like they live together.
Yeah.
For years until they finally
they
branch
find
out.
that dynamic.
Yeah.
I think SHINee is a prime example of a group that from the beginning have said, you know, we are business partners. Like at the end of the day, like, you know, we became a family, but we knew that we were a group that was made as a business project. And to be successful, you can't make it, you know, too personal. You have to have a fine line and that, you know,
some boundaries.
And I think this is why they have been a group that has lasted beyond the 7-year curse. Although, you know, rest in peace, Junghyun. You know, they were a group that even till this day have stood by each other. And
even that tragic event highlighted it.
Yeah. So
unfortunately, but
I think they're a representation of, you know, you will go through ups and downs, and you will, you know, start off as something that, you know, is a business, but you can find what you were looking for at the end of the day. And I think it's a good point to play this because I think that even represents with our passion. You know, like we always usually like find ourselves back and we replay and find a way to get back.
Replay. They're telling me, Nuna, I'm finally Nuna. It's true.
Replay and come back, like, you know, like rewind. Don't, like, you know, leave.
Yeah.
You know, we'll always
remember the good times.
Yeah. So
like there will always be difficult times, and you know now I'm experiencing the hardest times of my life, but I can always. I mean, damn it, SHINee and their bowl cuts. As much as I gave them shit, they still like this song. Is like what it pulls you back. It triggers you and being like, damn, like yeah, I really need to go back and being like, I just enjoy it for what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now it's all glitz and glamour and everyone knows them and it's easy to talk about K-pop and your favorite group like SHINee or TVXQ or whoever to really go back and just enjoy it for what it is. I mean, it's really hard nowadays to do that. There's definitely about trends, how to get the most views, get the most likes, get the most followers, and all that stuff. And if you want to do that and that's your platform, that's what you want, okay. No one's gonna stop you. No one can stop you. But I mean, in a day and age where everything's rapid, everything's there, you have everything. Obviously, you're gonna get pushed out at some point. And you got to make way for the new kids on the block. So that's fine. But I mean, let's just all huddle together and just enjoy the memories that we do have. And I mean, also, who knows, expand on that love. I mean, we're gonna have an episode of Mellie just schooling me on the new kids on the block. Who knows, maybe I will fall in love with one of the new boy bands like I did with TVXQ and fall in love and that cycle starts all over again. Or if not, at least, you know, we just do what we did before, share the knowledge, spread the love, and I hope that this becomes that for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Hope you tune back in.
Yeah, and I guess to leave you with that, we will play Ses, I'm Your Girl. You know, K-pop, always be your girl.